Transmedicalism. Yeah, it was a very popular ideology among the Blair Whites, the Buck Angels, the Calvin Guerras of the world. It's just this ideology that you can't be trans or you're not truly trans unless you're seeking and receiving medical gender-affirming care, right? And it was just this very popular push-back ideology, kind of counter culture to the gender fuckery, gender queer ideology of self-identification. You're trans if you say you're trans. There's no right or wrong way to be trans. Non-binary identities and gender queer identities and gender fuckery identities, gender nonconforming identities, all kind of flow between what it is to be trans, right? And it's kind of like this self-identification, like you actually decide what it is to be trans. So transmedicalism is just like the opposite of that ideology. Transmedicalism follows this this narrative that in order to be considered truly trans, whatever that means, you have to be seeking, in the trans mass case, like top surgery, hormone replacement therapy, other surgeries, right? But it was just a very popular ideology to just like hate on trans people you don't get. Gotcha. That's really what it boiled down to, and what Calvin Guerra used that ideology to justify, just like making fun of like cringy people he doesn't like.
But you got him off the internet.
Yeah,
so
I did.
My question is, how did you go from being in that position where you're a young kid, you're dealing with all this hate comments, and you obviously took some time and grew and fueled. You came back with a vengeance.
So you know what? What happened was,
Before we even... Oh, yeah. Really good, Shane.
I had to leave. I had to leave the internet for a little while, for about 2 years. I finished college. And I just had to leave. It was one of those things where like everything I posted, whatever I said, no matter how I said it.
Oh, we have no idea what that's like. I have no clue. I have no empathy for that situation. Not every post where has nothing to relate it, but their fans are following us everywhere. I have no idea what that's like.
I had a lot of
horrible. What the hell, dude?
Calvin Guerra stannies, had me on notification. So whenever I posted, they would come running, and I just didn't know how to deal with it at the time. And I mean, who does, right?
Right. I'm a grown ass man, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I understand.
So I just left the internet for a little while, and like I said, I had to do my own thing, finish school. I was in Pensacola, Florida. I was the president of several clubs. I was an RA. Had my great group of friends. And then in 2020 was when I graduated, and I had to move back to LA where my parents live. And all of that was kind of very shocking.
Wait, as a trans person, you left LA and went to Florida? It's for school?
No, so my parents lived in Florida.
Okay. Because I was like, you left
when I went to
our rights for less rights?
Yeah. They left me, actually.
Oh, wow.
It happens a lot, more than what people know.
No. I love them so much. But so I moved back to LA, and I didn't really know what to do because I was supposed to finish my bachelor's degree and go to get my graduate degree. I was going to go straight to graduate school. And then I was like at home all of a sudden. Like I even planned to transition without involving any of my family or anything. Like I planned to just start T and get top surgery, and then just like, when they saw me, they saw me.
We have a similar experience, and when I tell you I can relate to that as a trans woman.
Yeah.
Like I tried to hid my entire transition from my mother. It was just really, really challenging being in a household where you're expected so much of you. And when you need to transition because you don't feel like who you are on the outside is aligning with how you feel on the inside, it's hard to navigate that. And going back to like what I said in a previous episode about detransitioning, I did that a lot.
Yeah.
But what people like Calvin and some of these other people have done is turn that into propaganda for transmedicalism.
Yeah, with the transition narrative.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard.
Let me cheers myself.
You know, figuring out the family aspect was difficult, but it wasn't ever that they were unaccepting. It was kind of just I wanted to do it myself without hearing what they had to. I didn't want to walk.
You knew what you wanted, and you didn't want anybody in the way.
But then the pandemic put me back in my parents' house, and it was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this with them, you know, more involved. But that turned out to be great. Like my mom nursed me back to health after top surgery.
Same.
Yeah,
oh my
like
God.
I think, you know, for some parents, it's just like once you're like, this is what's happening, they're on board, right?
Yeah. And they know when you're not going to be able to change their minds.
Yeah. Exactly. Once they're the element of, but anyway, so I moved back to LA and I started doing TikTok actually. And I started meeting a bunch of
TikTok loves trans guys.
Yeah, I started meeting a bunch of queer people. And it was really refreshing because I started to see a lot of people using the terminology that I was using on YouTube and getting totally hated for, and like people identifying the way that I identified and like had, you know, been kind of conditioned to like really like feel weird about those parts of myself and like just, you know, hide those parts of myself on the internet, be really careful about how I spoke about my identity on the internet. And then, you know, here was TikTok and people with pink hair again, you know, just being 100% themselves. And like, I was like, okay, maybe I can come back. Like, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can talk about this stuff again. And so I ended up getting like a group of friends, of all content creators, right? During the pandemic, I think a lot of people experimented with like, you know, Zoom activism where they just, you know, got a bunch of queer people from around the world in a Zoom call. And
yeah, like a We Are the World moment.
You know, yeah, exactly. And so I met a lot of trans and queer people through that. And I kind of started preparing. I think I was like, I talked to a few of my friends and I was like, do you think that I should talk about Calvin? Like, do you think that, you know, I'm ready to do it? And then, what happened? I remember now is Calvin deleted the video about me, or he privated it. He privated the video and I was like, wait a second, he can't just erase it. He can't just erase something that was like the bane of my existence for 2 years. And kind of
like World of Warcraft, never look at the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wait a second. You know?
I saw, you don't understand. This kid do you mind if I tell this?
Yeah.
So this Calvin guy, kid, went on, what was her name? Who is
the streamer?
The streamer?
Riley Grace Rashong.
Okay. Goes on and plays World of Warcraft.
That girl, love her.
Like playing a video game while having this serious conversation. Let me not digress. I feel like I'm messing up the story. Yeah. Because like I was like, why are they playing video games? Because I was going to bring Fortnite today, honestly, and you and I were going to play Fortnite, and we were just going to talk shit about Calvin. We're going to be like, dude, drop me.
I just Riley Grace Rashong was involved, but she doesn't make content anymore either. She kind of went on her own little crash and burn moment for her. But so she had Calvin on and was kind of doing debate with him, and kind of it was a little strange.
It's the weirdest video I've watched.
It was a little strange conversation, and I was like, I don't want Calvin to be the only person talking about this, and I don't want him to have. I didn't think that he was going to have a redemption arc or anything, but I was like, I need to say what I need to say about this.
Yeah.
And so I got my support. I got someone to help me write it. I got someone to help me do
storyboarding
the research. My lovely writer at the time, Alice, I really, really actually I think she goes by a different name now.
Oh.
Anne?
Erased it. We didn't hear it.
Anne now? Yeah. Cut it out.
Even though it's alive. But
no, she's great. I really, really, really care about her so much. She was great. She's trans, and she really, really helped me kind of build the confidence and do the research I needed to post that video. And then and I just talked about like my experience and how it affected me, how like having a bunch of trans men out to get you.
Circle you like
really, really negatively affected me. And, and I found with that video, and I made some TikToks about it as well, like I kind of found that, a lot of people felt the same way as me. A lot of people felt like that ideology, that presence, Calvin's presence, kind of intimidated them out of feeling certain ways about their identities. A lot of people who identified with me felt more like they had to identify with Calvin. A lot of people came
He had
back
that
to me.
much influence on...
Yeah,
Because again,
100%.
I didn't know who the kid was.
100%. He was very, very popular.
So he created like a generation of trans guys?
Yeah, he had maybe like 300,000 subscribers. They were all young trans guys, just like him.